Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I am your once more stand-in host, John, and alongside me is Aaron.
Hey everybody.
Aaron, how are you? It's been a couple of weeks.
It's been a couple of weeks. It has been. It's been a nice couple of weeks. It's been Easter, so
It is, that's right. It's the middle of the Easter holidays, isn't it?
it's middle of the Easter holiday, so I've had some time off there. Went out in the camper van today. It was good fun.
Nice. You sent a photo into the group chat, and it looked like your wee man Theo was having a whale of a time in the back of the camper there.
Today was the trial run to see how well a camper van goes, and there's no Wi-Fi in a camper van. Did you know that?
Well, have you got a phone?
Well, there's always that.
If you've got a phone, you've got Wi-Fi.
How are you?
But I am good. It is, of course, the Easter holidays here in Scotland as well, but when you've got a kid at nursery, the Easter holidays mean absolutely nothing, and you don't take any time off, especially when you've got a wife who works in the NHS and tertiary education as well. It's just basically not included. But I will say, we did have, because I'm normally off on Mondays, my wife had Monday off, so we were able to spend a lovely Easter Monday together. It's very, very wholesome. We went to a garden centre.
A garden. That's how you spend your.
We went to a garden centre. I'm fully embracing the middle-aged thing, and I made and I sent the photos of this into the group chat over the weekend. I made a herb planter from an old bed frame. So welcome to the Door 14 gardening corner.
Yes, where John is growing.
But what else?
Herbs.
Herbs. Yes, exactly. Aaron, it's been a couple of weeks since the last podcast. We spoke in the last podcast that certain things may have been decided by the time that we got here in the world of hockey, and certainly it was. The Sheffield Steelers have confirmed their position as Elite League champions for 2024. They've done the double.
Yeah.
Is there much else to say about that, really?
No, we were talking about the last time that there was I think throughout this entire season there've been a runaway train. Things would have to seriously go wrong for what has happened to not have happened. I still think that the playoffs is up in arms. Playoffs is a different ball game, a different game altogether.
Different puck game.
A different puck game. But yeah, the Sheffield Steelers, well done to them for getting that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying anything at all. Aaron, let's start the way that we always do on the podcast, and let's have a look at the league tables, starting with the Elite League. Being totally honest, I started on a high on the last podcast by having the league tables and everything ready to go for the broadcast. Unfortunately, due to toddler's bedtime tonight and some very last minute podcast preparations with interviews that we revealed just about half an hour ago, that we're going to be joined later on, or not joined live, sorry, we're going to have an interview that I was able to do just about an hour and a half ago with Team GB's Katie Marsden. With all of that in mind, I had absolutely no time to put that slide together, so we're going to go back old school and we're going to talk about the league tables without actually looking at the league tables. So
to be fair,
is it just a bit extra?
It's just the same. It's nearly the same as last week, is it not? Or last time. But anyway, continue on.
Yep. So anyway, the Sheffield Steelers, as we said, have confirmed their place as league champions. They now have a lovely little C beside their name on the league table, as I believe that's number one contender, just for having the number one spot there. I believe they're next going for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship or something. 52 games played, 89 points. The Cardiff Devils sit in second, 52 games played with 75 points. Do you know what? I'm going to stop saying games played because at the moment, every single team has played 52 games. So just take that as written. I'm just going to tell you what the points are. The Belfast Giants sit in third with 68 points. Near enough confirmed position now for the Belfast Giants in third. The Manchester Storm look to be pretty well locked in. In fact, I think it was confirmed that they are locked in fourth place now. With 60 points. Just behind them in fifth, the Guildford Flames with 56 points. The Dundee Stars, surprisingly, sit in 6th with 49 points. The Fife Flyers on the same, 49 points, sit in 7th. And in 8th, we have the Glasgow Clan, a team that a lot of people wrote off, are now sitting in that final playoff position, also with 49 points. The Coventry Blaze sit in 9th with 48 points, and the Nottingham Panthers sit in 10th at the moment with 46 points. Now, as the title of our podcast would suggest, it is tight at the bottom, Aaron.
It's tight at the bottom. Fair enough. I just said there that it's pretty much the same as last week. It's not.
Nope.
Can you remember a time where you had 3 Scottish teams above the line? All
funny. This did come up on social media. Someone did ask this question, and I can't remember. I think it was Noel Gillespie from Belfast who may have answered this on social media, and it has happened before. They have all made the top 8. At least these 3 have. I believe there was a year where the Caps didn't. I think it was when the league was 11 teams, and the Caps didn't make it. But these 3 teams, technically, I think Glasgow may have still been called Brayhead at that point. But interestingly, and I saw one of the best pieces of social media I saw, there was a few games last night, and without playing a game, the Glasgow Clan managed to climb places, and someone said that is the most Glasgow Clan thing ever, is to move up spaces without actually playing a game. We said in our social media, there's a 3-point spread across 5 teams, all fighting for those last playoff positions. There are only 3 up for grabs at this point. 6th, 7th, and 8th are up for grabs. Currently, as you said, with those 3 Scottish teams taking up those positions, but all tied on the same points. The Coventry Blaze have been in something of a freefall of recent, compounded with a shutout loss last night at home. The Nottingham Panthers look to have the biggest work to do at the moment, with them sitting essentially 3 points adrift of the line, if you like, that magic line for 8th place, with only 2 games left for every team in the league. Aaron, I'm not entirely sure what permutations need to come for different teams to get in there, but Nottingham, I think, have got the biggest hill to climb. Do you see them making playoffs at this point?
No, I think they're done. I think this is what we're going to see at playoffs. I think these are the 8 teams. Coventry haven't been on form recently either, I don't think. So they would, as you say, it can depend on how the puck drops on the night, I guess. But Coventry and Nottingham haven't been on a great form recently, where Glasgow, Fife, and Dundee. Dundee's not far above Coventry, actually, based on form. So we can see how it goes. But no, I don't think Nottingham are going to get up further.
Sorry,
am I hearing myself twice?
Yes, you are, because for some reason my laptop has decided to move my headphones to another device instead of leaving them with my laptop. So you're joining us live with an absolute nightmare moment for me. So I'm going to turn my speakers down in a hope that we can't hear you double until I can get this fixed.
You don't want to hear me twice.
So, Aaron, like you say, the Dundee Stars, they're currently if you like, the top of the Scottish teams, but they were a team that looked to be in absolute disarray up until this point. The biggest thing that seems to be working for them at the moment is the fact that the Coventry Blaze are in freefall. Now, I joked around on social media earlier today saying that the Coventry Blaze are trying hard to get that number 1 overall draft pick in the Elite League. Unfortunately, that's not a thing.
No. Let's see. Look at the schedule here. What have they been at recently? So 3-0 against Manchester Storm, lost that. They lost against Guildford Flames. They lost against Nottingham Panthers. They lost against Manchester Storm. Yeah, that's as you say, a drastic freefall at the moment.
Yep, it is.
So As I say, I would quite like to see all three Scottish teams go to playoffs.
And look, I'll be completely honest. The way that the table sits right now is fantastic news for me, because it means if it was to finish this way, I get to see playoff hockey, because I can quite easily drive to Dundee, Fife, or Glasgow to go and see them play the Giants. So I'm very specifically looking at who ends in that 6th position. And looking to see where I'm going at. Again, I joked on social media today, I had the 3 ticket websites ready to go, and that's the way that I'll be sitting on Sunday, because I've got permission in the house to go to that playoff game. So I cannot wait to get the
all important permission.
Look, we're all beholden to it. We all know fine rightly that our better halves determine how much hockey we get to watch.
There's a good comment there from Mark on Facebook, if you want to bring that up on the screen there.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right, Mark. They were comfortably mid-table, and this free fall seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere. I don't know what's happened in that locker room. I don't know, has Danny Stewart lost the room? Do the guys just not want to go? But you're right as well in what you say, Mark. The fact that they've had tragedy in that team with the death of Keno. Has that shaken up that team more than what it seems to have done on the surface? Absolutely. And would you hold it against that team? Absolutely not. Do we hold the Nottingham Panthers position against them this season? Of course we don't. So absolutely, there are ways and means, but you would suspect that a team like Coventry will be going all out this weekend to try and move themselves back up. They are only 1 point adrift, so there is that, but it's can they do it with the games that they've got left. Interestingly, you've got the final 2 games, Dundee and Fife. They play each other in a home and home, so they're in Dundee on one night and they're in Fife on the next. So realistically, if they split the weekend, I would imagine that they're both in. If they can get 2 points each from the weekend, that would put them to 51 points, and that would put them, if Coventry win both their games, all they can get to is 52 points. So realistically, I would imagine that 51 points, I imagine, is going to get you into contention for playoffs. And unfortunately, that puts it in a position where I really don't think Nottingham are going to make it.
No.
Aaron, have you got anything else to chat about in the EIHL tables before we move on to look at the NHL?
No, it's just with. Are we doing playoff? We talked about this. We're doing a wee short one next week.
We talked about it a little bit. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. But
so we'll hold off on that then.
Let's hold off on that for now. And we've had a discussion, and they're only discussions right now, but there may be some slightly more regular podcasting from us here at Door 14 during that little short playoff window. So keep with us, keep an eye on our socials. There is every chance that we'll be back with you next week, rather than having to wait 2 weeks, just with the way that our podcasts look like they were going to hit with playoffs. It doesn't really make sense for us to wait a couple of weeks. So we may be here looking at what first playoff weekend is going to look like with the quarterfinals to give our analysis, our expert analysis on it. But for the time being, let's move on to the NHL.
Before that, if we're potentially doing it, for anyone that's listening, send us a tweet, send us a Facebook. What do you think's going to happen? How's the playoffs going to turn out? No, Mark's listening. If
you think you know what the quarterfinals are going to look like, then drop it in. If you think you know who's going to take it all, drop it into the comments. We will be sure to give you your moment of fame here on the comments box on the podcast tonight. Aaron, let's move on. Let's have a look at the NHL standings as of today, the 4th of April. In the East, in the Atlantic Division, we have Boston still sitting in first place, 103 points from 76 games played. The Florida Panthers sit in second, 76 games played for 99 points. And the Toronto Maple Leafs sit solid in that third place, the same as they were 2 weeks ago. 75 games played, 95 points. In the Metropolitan Division, the New York Rangers, 76 games played, good for 106 points. The Hurricanes sit 75 games played, 101 points. And the Philadelphia Flyers, after us joking partway through the season that they were in rebuild mode, that what you talked about is happening, Aaron. The whole first half of the season, absolute done. Second half of the season, they're going to come through and win the cup.
It's one of those ones. I think I've said it every single season that we've done the door. Like every time we've done the Door 14 podcast, every season I've said it. So it had to have landed at least once.
Well, let's wait and see. We've got a couple of months left to go and see if they get to lift the Lord Stanley's Cup. But they're sitting 76 games played and 83 points in that third place in the Metropolitan. As far as the wild cards in the East are concerned, the Tampa Bay Lightning sit in the first wild card slot with 75 games played and 91 points. And an interesting one for me, they seem to have rocketed back up through the standings as the Washington Capitals. They look to be completely out of it. They've come back up into that second wildcard spot with 82 points from 74 games. Really interesting to see if they can make postseason and if Ovi gets the chance to add a few more goals to the tally as he continues to chase Gretzky's big number. Over in the West then, in the Central Division, the Dallas Stars sit 76 games played, 105 points. The Colorado Avalanche, 75 games played, good for 100 points. And the Winnipeg Jets sit in third place, 75 games played, 96 points. In the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks sit 76 games played, 102 points. The Edmonton Oilers sit in second, 74 games played, good for 95 points. And the Vegas Golden Knights, 92 points from 75 games. In the wildcard slots, we currently still have the Nashville Predators in the number one wildcard slot in the West. 90 points from 75 games played. A little bit of a slide from where they were. And the LA Kings with 89 points from 75 games. And just for context, even though he's not here, the Minnesota Wild sit in fourth position, so basically two out of the wild cards, with 81 points from 74 games. So a fair ways behind LA and Nashville as far as points are concerned. Aaron, probably the biggest talking point, we've already mentioned it, is your Flyers and the fact that they seem to have clawed their way back up through the standings.
Well, we've been in that third position for pretty much every time we've talked about it. They've just been holding on to that third spot. I am, as always, getting that wee bit nervous. Exactly what you just talked about with Washington there. Like, they have come skyrocketing back up there, and if they continue on that path, then they could knock us out of that third position. When you're going through that, though, you missed a couple of important points. We've got some clinched playoff spots.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, so we do. My apologies. So let's rattle through a couple of those then, Aaron. So yeah, you're right. So the teams confirmed to have already reached the postseason are Boston, Florida, the New York Rangers, the Hurricanes, the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Vancouver Canucks. They have already punched their ticket and will take part in postseason. Yeah, we're getting to that point. It feels like we're really getting to the business end of the season, which is fantastic, because I think as a UK fan, I know that there's people who stay up to insane times of night to watch regular season games. And I think, being totally honest, before I had my daughter, I occasionally would have dropped into some of those games. But I think these days now, having kids just takes me out of it completely, and all of my attention goes on to playoffs. Because there's a smaller number of games that mean more.
Yeah, and having the NHL app with the recaps gets played a lot more.
It definitely helps for those of us here.
What about Nashville? What do you reckon with the wild cards?
I think we're good for it. I think we're good to stay there or thereabout. I think we could move up slightly. We need to find form again. We need Saros and Lankinen to really find the form that we had again. We went through a franchise record point streak. I think we ended up with it was either 13 or 15 points, which is a franchise record. So to have that and then potentially miss out on postseason would just be heartbreaking. But the way the points are in the West, I think we're good for it. Like, fingers crossed, don't come back to me in a couple of weeks if we get knocked out, because I just won't want to talk about it at all. But
move on.
I think, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed, I think we're good for it. I think we make postseason. What we do after that, I don't really know. I don't think we're not geared up. We're not ready for a cup run at this point. It's Trots's. Dave always laughs. It's Trots's first season, our first season with the Trots, and I'm gonna give him time to. I don't want to say rebuild, but we're gonna give him time to find his feet with the team and how he wants to put his stamp on it. It's no longer a David Poyley team. It's going to be a Barry Trotz team, and let's see what that looks like in 1-2 seasons. But let's continue to push and make postseason every year up until we make that inevitable run and score that cup.
One day it will happen. But yeah,
one day, someday it'll happen. Someday we will raise a banner that no one will take the piss out of us for.
No, definitely not.
Aaron, is there anything else you want to chat about before we move
seamlessly
into period one?
When you asked about the Flyers earlier, I didn't want to. We've got some conversations about the Flyers later on that I think might hopefully have a positive effect on.
We do, and we even have a little bit of chat about the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. So unfortunately, Dave, you're not here, and it's only your franchise we're not going to talk about later on. But Aaron, for now, let's shift gear and let's move it into our first period of hockey. Period one of hockey is our local coverage, everything that is happening in the world of UK ice hockey. This time around, Aaron, our first story comes from our illustrious host, who I hope is sitting peacefully at home watching us. And this was the story from the Elite League itself. And they hit the 1 million spectators once again. Yeah. Once again, so I think that's the second successive season that the league has hit 1 million spectators. Now, I believe that's an increase on last year, or it's happened earlier than it did last season. Because I think
it's the third time it's happened.
Playoffs.
Yeah, that's the third time it's happened, but it's, as you say, it's the second time it's happened in a row, which is really important.
And even bigger is that the game continues to grow year on year, so much so that this is, according to league stats, a 73% increase in crowds since 2010. Now, bear in mind, we've had COVID in the middle of all that. We've had concerns about the return to rinks and what that was potentially going to do to the sport. Clearly, there's an audience for this game, Aaron.
Yep. And I keep hearing more and more. With doing this podcast, I've got friends and family that reach out to me asking me about the Belfast Giants, where do they get jerseys from and things like that. So I see it. You see it just around Belfast, no matter what. There are a lot of people are interested in the game, so it's good to see, and let it continue.
It is, and it's important to note as well that this being the second time that we've hit the 1 million spectators in regular season. It's only happened once before, but that was when we had an additional franchise, when it was an 11-team league. So that was how it happened, because apparently the 18 or 19 so people who went to Edinburgh every now and then apparently managed to total that all the way up to 1 million.
All the numbers count. All the numbers count.
Everyone counts.
I didn't think about that. That's a really good. I know you joke about the 18 or 19 people, but that's like another team. That's a significant change.
That's a significant increase. And look, let's give them the credit that they're due as far as this is concerned. While every team has seen an increase, the Sheffield Steelers have seen an average crowd of over 7,500 per game this season. Now, they've had a couple of 9,000 games as well. They've had sellouts. Obviously, the run that they're on and the fact that they have, I think it's the biggest arena in UK ice hockey. It definitely doesn't hurt. So give them the credit where it's due. They're having a great season. They've got a lot of seats to fill, and they're clearly filling them. And that's having a big impact. 7,700 per game is their average for this season. And you would imagine as they clinch their first trophy, local coverage would have gone up in the media, so people will be going because they want to see champions. We saw that in Belfast. We saw it the year that we basically had won by Christmas under Paul Adey. The crowds were enormous. We saw it the year that we won 2 out of 3 2 seasons ago. The crowds basically after Christmas were enormous. There was massive number of sellouts. The Grand Slam year last season, multiple sellouts at the SSE. But what's impressive is the fact that even without those plaudits coming in, without the trophies coming in to the likes of Belfast, those crowds are still going up. And we're seeing multiple sellouts. I believe the last couple of weekends have been close to, if not sellouts. I've completely forgotten the point I was going to make. But anyway, crowds are up, numbers are up, which means money's up. So surely we get that back in product. And wouldn't you know, it would be fantastic if we could end up with something like a TV deal, because if stadiums are selling, if arenas are selling out and rinks are selling out, then surely it makes sense to put UK ice hockey on TV, potentially even for free. And I want to bring in this comment that I've just seen
I was just going to
from
say,
Colin McDonald. Colin, yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. It's great to have teams at the top who are selling out because they are champions, because they're winning trophies. But you know what we talked about at the start of the podcast there, the fact that it is so, as we've called the podcast again, it's so tight at the bottom. Those teams in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, they are selling out rinks. And you've got Dundee and Fife who are heading to sellouts. Dundee have actually stopped selling tickets for the weekend at their box office. They've gone online only for the remaining tickets that they've got for this weekend's games. Fife, I believe, are pretty similar.
And those numbers aren't to be sniffed at.
It's standing room only. It's standing room only in Fife for this weekend against Dundee.
That's what Dundee's a 2,700 seater, and Fife is a 3,200 seater. Like, those numbers aren't to be sniffed at.
They're not to be sniffed at, but I would, yeah. Can they fit those all into Kirkcaldy? That's a big bill for new tires, new suspension. If that number of people is going to Kirkcaldy, and if they're getting 3,000, if that was to continue, there surely a little bit of money in tarmac needs to go towards that, because I won't take our small car anymore, because I'm actually terrified of
actually fitting into one of the potholes, right? You're thinking
I'm convinced that my Passat would just go nose in and just be stuck. Like I'm only taking the Volvo. Like I put it in off road whenever I go into that car park. I see people going in there in little cars.
Listen to you. I'll not take my small car. I'll not take my Passat. I'll only take the Volvo.
Listen, I've had that thing for 10 years. It does a job, all right? Basically, I'm a glorified taxi driver. I'm gonna throw this up just because it's there as well. Colin, yep. I know. Look at this. It's amazing. Look at this man cave. It's absolutely fantastic. Aaron, let's move on.
What about the post above Collins?
Oh, okay. Yes, he is. He's dipping in and out. Hi, Marty. We know that you're dipping in and out. So it's great to see you, the podcast host with the most, and we look forward to seeing you on the podcast very, very soon. Aaron, let's move on from the crowds, shall we? And we've already talked about it. The Sheffield Steelers have clinched the Elite League, and with that, of course, comes the right to participate in the Champions Hockey League. We talked in the last podcast the fact that the CHL, there have been rumours of, does the Elite League get a slot in the CHL? Is the CHL actively changing the way that league works to potentially move us out of it? But no, they confirmed a few weeks ago that the Elite League would be one of the challenger leagues. So I
remember that conversation being very different. I don't remember it being like that. I remember it being will Sheffield take the spot?
Well, this is then the separate conversation.
Okay.
A lot of chat was made about obviously the decision that the Steelers made last season not to participate in the Continental Cup. They had the opportunity after Guildford turned it down, and they also turned it down. So there was the conversation of, well, if it comes to a CHL slot, will Sheffield take that opportunity? And without the Steelers having confirmed anything just yet, the CHL themselves seem to have confirmed that the Steelers will participate in next season's Champions Hockey League, with a little tweet that was saying, oh, look, we haven't seen this arena in quite a few years. So it was one of their Guess the Arena tweets that they normally put out. And they said, hint, We haven't seen CHL hockey here for some time, but we'll be back this season with their usual hashtag Champions Go Beyond.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would appear that the Sheffield Steelers will indeed participate in the 2024 Champions Hockey League.
Good.
It's great to see, isn't it? I mean, what do you think the reaction would be from the CHL, for example, and the European hockey community if our league champions weren't to participate?
Well, we talked about in the last podcast, right? You know, if they decided they weren't going to, there's a good chance that they would ruin it for the rest of them. You know, they might not want to do it this season, but then whoever wins next season, the season after that, well, then would it have ruined their chances to go to the championship hockey? So, no, I think it's a great thing that they've decided to definitely do it. Although, didn't Mark say that? Mark made a comment last week about you kind of have to. Is this an optional thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially the way that the agreement is made, obviously it will have been a conversation with the Elite League for the CHL to even say that the Elite League will be one of the Challenger Leagues. So I can't imagine there was ever a world after that announcement was made that the Steelers would not be participating in the CHL. It couldn't happen. No. If the Steelers as an organisation were to say and go over the head of the league and say we're absolutely not going to do it, then I think there would be bigger conversations to be had about the Elite League's participation going forward in a number of European competitions. And I think that would bring up serious questions about the Continental Cup as well, and whether the Elite League would be offered that. But it would be very unusual for the CHL to have had a conversation with the Elite League where the league chairman is also the owner of the Sheffield Steelers, and for the Steelers to then say, no, we're not actually going to participate. So it was a moot point as soon as the CHL said the Elite League or the Challenger League.
Yep.
It might have been interesting if there had been an agreement to say, oh, if a team doesn't want to do it, you can just go to your second place team. Or it goes to the Challenge Cup winners. Rather than the playoff champion, because the playoff champion gets the Continental Cup. So, interesting sort of way of doing it. Obviously, when a team wins the Grand Slam or wins the league and the playoffs, for example, I believe then the Challenge Cup comes into play, and that's the option for the Continental Cup. But when you've got a team that's won the Grand Slam, we saw it last year with the Conti Cup just being bounced down through the league table. So, yeah, it could have been interesting, but we're not going to see it just yet. It would have been great to see the fallout of it, but that's not where we are. We've talked about it already, but I just want to mention very, very quickly that we have one confirmed playoff quarterfinal matchup already determined. The Manchester Storm and the Guildford Flames cannot change out of 4th and 5th place. I think there's a potential that they could flip which one's in which slot, but those two teams will meet, and they've already announced what way round their games are going to be this weekend. So they've already agreed as teams who's going to play where and who's going to have the second home advantage, if you like. So Storm v Flames, middle table, that 4th and 5th already decided. We've just got the top and bottom to figure out. Although, to be totally honest, I think the top is already sorted. It's the bottom that we're waiting to see what's going to happen.
What's happening there? Yeah.
And Aaron, there's only one more story. It's a significant story, actually. And this was the news that Great Britain forward Matthew Myers has decided to hang up his international skates after what's been a fairly illustrious career with the GB setup.
Only a short time, right?
Oh, only a short time. He's only played 114 times for his country.
19 years.
19 years. It's only the second highest of all time behind Jonathan Phillips, to be totally honest. And what guts me about this one is the fact that he's obviously made a personal decision to leave the international setup and step away from it. 114 appearances is only 2 behind Jonathan Phillips.
Yeah.
So if he'd stuck around, even for the friendly internationals that are coming up, let alone the World Championships, he probably would have gone over that cap appearances record set by Jonathan Phillips.
So close to the record, but as you say, there's he's only stepping down the announcement is just for the international hockey for the Team GB. He's
Yep.
still playing.
He's still going to be playing domestically,
Yeah.
as far as I know. But internationally, that's him. He scored his first goal in a 6-0 victory over Belgium back in the day, in 2004. And has won silver medals in 2011, 2015, and 2016, as well as bronze in 2009. And he was part of the gold medal campaigns in Belfast in 2017 when we got the chance to see the national team, in Hungary in 2018, and in Nottingham in 2023 when the team made their push once again into the top flight of international hockey, which we will see them take their shot and aim for Olympic qualification just after the domestic season wraps up.
Yeah.
So I think from us here at Door 14, not that he has any idea that we exist at this point.
Well, he played for Cardiff Devils, Nottingham Panthers over the years as well. I think he's not a stint in Sheffield.
He may know who we are, but let's be totally honest, it's probably unlikely. But listen,
I think there's a really good comment here from the Ice Hockey UK. She's a chief executive, and it is literally, I'm literally just going to quote him, to be fair. And he says he's an inspiration to any young player. On behalf of Ice Hockey UK, I'd like to wish him all the best and the best for the future. I think that sums up what he's done for Team GB. And as he says, it's an inspiration for any young player. We're always saying about getting people into ice hockey, and having someone like Matthew Myers out there doing that for us, it's been a big push.
Absolutely. And I don't think we can say it any better. And I think probably with that, Aaron, we will move on to period 2.
So with it only being John and myself today, I have the absolute honor of looking after period 2, which is international hockey. So anywhere that there's hockey across the pond. Although I say that, but then I'm about to say, John, let's talk about Team GB women. So it's not quite international hockey.
Well, it is, because they're playing other international teams. It's an international tournament. So let's get stuck into it. The Team GB women are in EIHL World Championship Division 1B action in Riga. They've played 3 games out of their 5 in the tournament. They currently sit in 4th place. They've had a 1-0 win against Italy in their opening game, a 3-2 overtime loss against Poland, and a 7-1 regulation loss against Slovakia, which I think was touted to be their toughest game of the tournament.
There were 3 tough games, because so Slovakia is the team to beat. Poland were silver medalists last tournament, so the fact that they got a point out of that is still a win.
Yep, absolutely. You're 100% right. And there'll be in a few moments here, there'll be a quick little interview that I was able to do with Team GB's Katie Marsden, Team GB's number 14, Katie Marsden, for a little 14 with 14, and she says the same, that I won't no spoilers here, but she says it's the 3 toughest games are behind them, and they now get to concentrate on the 2 that are ahead of them. So speaking of those games, the 2 games still to come are Slovenia tomorrow, Friday, at 2 p.m, or today if you're listening on release day for the podcast. So at 2 p.m, you can tune in live to that. And I believe they're being shown on YouTube, I think.
They are
live.
And they actually have some really good, if you want to watch over the games and get summaries of them, they've got the good highlights, and then interviews.
The highlights are brilliant.
Yeah,
yep,
so
the highlight reels are fantastic,
and
I know that Team GB have been putting out some fantastic content as well from the girls over in Riga. The second game, the final game, that they have of the weekend is on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. That's GMT, against Latvia, the hosts. And again, I'm not going to ruin anything later on, but Katie does have a quick little chat about that and the fact that it's expected to be a well-attended game from the Latvians. But with that, Aaron, I think what I'm going to do, if it's okay, rather than wait for its traditional spot, because we're talking about Team GB right now, is why don't we throw over to Katie herself and to this week's 14 with 14?
Roll the tape.
Thank you.
Steens until I move. Oh, all right. I'm pleased to be joined on 14 with 14 by Katie Marsden. Katie is a Yorkshire native, hailing from Hessel. Have I said that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Just outside Hull, and came through the Kingston development system there in Hull, playing under 16s until a move in 2013 to North America, playing in Canada and the US until 2021, when she returned to the UK and to the Kingston Diamonds, where she's remained since then, playing in the WNIHL Elite. Katie made her Team GB debut in 2013-14 at under-18s and moved to the senior team in 2015-16 and has remained a firm fixture of the squad since then, securing 2 bronze, 1 silver and 1 gold medal in that time, and is currently, right now, in Riga, Latvia, competing in the IIHF World Championship Division 1B tournament, and has agreed to have a chat with me on her day off, no less. Katie, thank you for coming on the podcast. How are you, and how is Riga treating you so far?
Hi, no worries at all. Glad to chat. Riga's a different country, definitely. Interesting surroundings to be in, but the hockey's been great so far, and it's been a great 2 weeks with the girls.
Fantastic. So, Katie, the idea behind 14 with 14 is it's to get an idea of who players are both on and off the ice in 14 questions, give or take. So, with that in mind, I'll dive into the first question, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first one that I ask everyone is one of these terrible icebreaker questions. So what is your go-to coffee order?
Ooh, my go-to coffee order is quite simple. It's just flat white. Gets the job done. At least it's got a good, coffee to milk ratio, and yeah.
Nice.
Simple but good.
So now we've got the icebreaker out of the way. Let's have a look at hockey. What got you into hockey, Katie, and how did you get your start in the game?
So I actually started playing when I was around 4 years old, or I learned to skate when I was around 4. I went to a pantomime on ice with my grandparents, thought that skating looked really cool, so wanted to give it a go. Tried figure skating with my brother, but it was not for me, wearing the glittery dresses, and it definitely wasn't for him. He then started to play hockey because we saw the junior team playing after our figure skating lessons, and then I wanted to follow in his footsteps, so I started playing the same time he did. And I was actually talking about it today. I don't think I probably played a proper game of hockey until I was probably 8 or so. So I played at least 4 years just practicing before I actually got to play a game.
Oh, amazing. So you wear the number 14 for Team GB, and obviously being Door 14 hockey, we have a specific interest in the number 14. So does 14 hold any special significance for you, or is it just a number that you've been given?
So looking, I would say outright it's just a number I was given. But looking back potentially a bit deeper, it was the number that my brother wore for quite a long time, and it was his favourite number. So in a roundabout way, it does have a special meaning because it's his number, his favourite number. But for me personally, I was given it after changing numbers a few times for GB.
Okay, so just a happy coincidence now to be wearing 14 then.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Nice full circle moment.
Yeah, lovely. So when you're on a trip like the one that you're currently on with GB, do you have any movies or TV shows downloaded on your devices that help you switch off from the game in your downtime?
At the minute, we have many different ones. A crowd favourite is Jamae, Private Schoolgirl. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you haven't, give it a watch. It's quite funny. But at the minute, my roommate and I have been watching The Dark Tourist. I think it's on Prime, not sure. But basically, this guy goes to countries you probably would never visit before, like North Korea. Turkmenistan was one of the last ones we watched. And he goes there and does touristy things in these countries you'd probably never want to go to. But it's quite interesting. Would definitely recommend.
Oh, wow. That's about as far away from the game of hockey as you could think, so I'm sure that takes your mind off it completely.
Definitely.
looking back to your beginnings in the game and where you currently are, then what or who do you think has been the biggest influence on your hockey career so far?
I think probably my parents, just knowing how much they've sacrificed for me to be able to continue playing hockey and play at the highest level I possibly could. Having their support has just pushed me to be the best that I can and makes me want to try as hard as I can to make them proud and make all their sacrifices and time commitments worth it in the end.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I've done quite a few of these interviews now with different players, and parents and grandparents are traditionally the ones that come up as the sacrifice makers and to get players where they are currently.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's think about pre-game for a second. So you're in the locker room.
Yeah.
And you are in charge of the pre-game music. So
Right.
what are you putting on the speaker to get everyone hyped up pre-game?
Ooh, good question. I think it definitely depends on the team playing, like I'm playing for at that moment. I would say with the GB girls, Shania Twain is a big winner. She takes a lot of the aux time in our changing room.
Nice.
Yeah.
You personally, Katie, you've had an interesting journey in hockey so far. I was looking at your Elite Prospects page when I was doing some prep for this interview today, and you've obviously spent time in the UK coming through development, like I said, but then you spent some time in Ontario in Canada and then some time in Connecticut in the US. Can you tell me how the opportunity to go to North America came about and what that experience was like?
Yeah. So I was playing in conference, which I don't know if they do anymore, if you've heard about it, which is an English tournament where it was North, South, Scotland and Midlands, basically in a regional tournament, basically. And there was a scout there from Canada, sorry. He came over, and then at the time I was obviously playing with all boys in that tournament. There were a few girls dotted here and there, but he came from a school where they had all girls teams and all boys teams, and obviously would be playing for the girls team. So when he was interested or showed an interest in me going to the school, it was interesting because I'd never really just played on an all girls team before. I'd dabbled a bit with the development system with the girls, but it wasn't as strong as it even is now. If you want to develop in the UK, really, as a youngster, you have to play with the boys. It's just the way it is. So yeah, when he asked if I wanted to play with an all-girls team, go to a boarding school, it was a big change, but it was very exciting. Got to play hockey, 7 days a week there. It was integrated into class time. We were supported academically, and it was a really, really good experience. I'd definitely recommend if anyone was to ever go. The Ontario Hockey Academy was great to me, and I loved my experience there, which also helped me go to pursue my dreams of playing like college hockey or university hockey in America, where I went to Trinity College in Hartford in Connecticut, where I played there 3 years. Unfortunately got cut a bit short due to COVID, but again, an amazing experience. And I think it really changed my perception of hockey, because you see how big it is in these countries and how well supported their systems are, and being in a country where there's just so many hockey players and hockey's a part of everyday life for them is incredible. And yeah, I'm really grateful for all the experiences I had there.
And do you feel that's had a massive influence then on your hockey development, that chance to go abroad into that system, which is geared towards, more towards a split in the girls and boys game? You had the chance to develop your game specifically, and then come back to GB and have the success that you've had since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great to see more and more girls going abroad now and getting the same experience or similar experiences that are only adding to our team's current, success and helping us grow as a country.
Amazing. Do you then have, you've had a fairly storied career so far, but it's a short career. You're still young, but do you have a highlight moment in your career so far?
I would have to say winning gold with the girls back in Jaca in Spain was the highlight. It was not a tough tournament, but we'd been in that division for a long time. It was our first tournament back together after COVID, and just being able to go 5-0 in that tournament and completely dominate them was amazing. And so winning gold and then moving into the division we are now has been the highlight for sure.
Amazing. And you mentioned there about sort of dominating in the division that you were in before you've moved up into the one that you're now, and that leads nicely on to my next question. You've had a few years now with the Team GB setup, both in the under section and now with the senior team, if you like. You've got that experience, and the national side, in all aspects, seems to be growing and going from strength to strength. What do you think's caused that bar raising sort of across the field, both in the men's and the women's game?
I would say I don't know. It just seems that more people have got into the sport, but at the same time, those people who have been there for years, like myself and the other veterans amongst the team that have, never given up on the dream, committed so much time that, we've always wanted to keep that program moving forward. And along the way, we've gained great coaches, great support staff that all help us achieve those goals. I think the men performing really well has done amazing things for ice hockey in the UK in general. I think they've really raised the awareness of the sport. They've gathered quite a good following, I would say, and I think some of that has affected us in a good way. I think we have more of a following and more of a respect than we ever had before. So I'd say probably their successes and then our successes as well, like, winning that promotion back in, I can't remember, 2021 I think it was, or maybe 22. Time's passing by too quickly. But winning that promotion and, holding our own in the division we are in now, I think we're just showing other nations and most importantly ourselves that we are capable and we belong here, and, that's just driving our progression further.
Absolutely. You're doing really well, leading on from my question into what I've got planned as my next question, and that's looking at where you are now in Riga. So, looking where you are, the team's doing well so far, sitting mid-table, I think in fourth at the minute after 3 games. You've had a regulation win, a regulation loss, and an OT loss. How is the mood in the room right now? You've got 2 big games coming up against 2 teams above you in the table. So how is the team with that pressure? There's obviously pressure to stay up in this division. So how are the girls coping with that pressure?
I think it is stressful, but it's an excitement more than anything, I think. On paper, we've had our 3 toughest games and we've managed to take 4 points out of those tough games. And we're in the same position as we are now, halfway through the tournament, that we were last year at the end of the tournament. So although it's stressful and at the minute, anyone could go up or go down, or Slovakia are most likely to go up if they continue their trajectory. But, anyone below is fighting for those 2nd and 3rd medals. And if anything, I would say exciting. The girls are really amped up to go over the next 2 days of 2 very big games. We have just finished a pre-scout about our game tomorrow. So, we know what to expect tomorrow and we're excited to go. And then the game on Saturday against Latvia, the host, we've heard that they bring in a big crowd. They're going to, have that home advantage, but we just can't wait to, show them what we've got and take their game to them.
Absolutely. I think pressure brings out the best in anyone, especially when you're potentially seen as the underdogs being the away team. So absolutely. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic couple of games coming up. Looking specifically at you then, looking at your pre-game, it's been said that hockey players are creatures of habit, and you can look online at all the weird and wonderful things that different players like to do or do before the game faces off. So what does pre-game look like for you? Have you got any rituals that you have to follow?
I'd say less have to, more that I enjoy to. One of them, singing karaoke with the girls, is the number one way to get me in the mood to play hockey. The bus trips are very loud, and I apologise to all the staff. They're horrendous to be on, I can imagine. And then, we just enjoy like a good little game of football, a bit of keepy-uppy, strong warm-up, and then into the game. I think I'm quite fortunate that I'm not too superstitious. Like, I don't put one side of my equipment on first or, whatever. Nothing like that really knocks me or gets my head, wobbly. So I'd say, just having fun with the girls is, the number one way to make me get my head in the game.
I've got to ask you, when you say it's karaoke, what's the go-to song for you?
So this year it is a bit strange, but it's Fight for This Love by Cheryl Cole, an oldie but goldie. But other contenders would be That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain is up there. What else? Those are the two main ones this year.
Okay. So Katie, last couple of questions are ones that I ask everyone when we get to the end of the interview. The first one is, do you have an NHL team or now these days a PWHL team that you follow? And if you do, why them?
So I've never really followed the NHL, but since the creation of the PWHL, it's been very, very fun and interesting to watch. And if you've watched the game, you'll know it's fast, it's fun, it's furious. And at the minute, I would say that just following that whole league in general is exciting, and picking a favorite team is a bit difficult, especially with the non-branding and all of that type of stuff. But I'd say the team I've enjoyed watching the most at the minute is Toronto. I just think they've been dominating the league so far, and it's been really amazing to see how much they've grown the game in the past 6 or so months.
So I'll ask you a couple of follow-up questions on that, if that's okay. So we, on the podcast, we talked quite a lot about the PWHL when it was announced, and when you talked about the non-branding, whenever the uniforms were put out, the jerseys were put out. What's your thoughts on that? Because we were a little bit undecided, the fact that they stuck with just the team insert city here rather than going with a certain identity. So how do you feel about that? If you were a player on one of those teams, would you want a team identity to get behind, or is the city enough, do you think?
I think for their reasoning that they came out with, that if they were to add on that team branding, the league would be postponed, say, for another year. I think with that logic, just getting it out there, getting it started, showing what they can do is the most important, and they've done that. And I think they've created more excitement around the league kind of by not having it, because now people are interested in, helping them build that brand. And it started off so well, they need to do it right. So, if they would have rushed with a name that people might not have liked, who knows what it could have, flopped and been the reason for their downfall. So I think, although it's not conventional, I think coming straight out with the names has been a good thing for them, because, like I said, it's generated that buzz. They got out there, and now people are interested to see what they're going to come up with, and because they've had, a full season to decide what they could possibly be, I think it can only be a positive thing in the end. And if it's bad, they've had a whole year to decide, what their team name should be. So, who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a good thing they got it out before.
I think you're right. There's definitely a want from people to watch that product when you look at the fact that they're selling out the likes of the XL Centre in Minnesota. So there's definitely a market for it. So another follow-up question. I don't know if you've had the chance to see it today. So linked again to the PWHL, they just today released their championship trophy, the Walter Cup, which is made and designed by Tiffany & Co. Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to look at the trophy?
We came up on all of our TikToks. So yeah, it's an amazing thing, and the fact it's made by Tiffany too, it just shows massive brands are investing and interested in this, and only going to help propel it further.
Yeah, amazing. Katie, I've got one last question for you before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your night off on your day off. And it's to ask a simple question: if you could go back and give 10-year-old you a single piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say that, specifically hockey related, that off ice matters more than you can ever imagine, and will make you a better player if you stick to it and do hockey specific things.
Amazing. Katie, a massive thank you for giving up your time while away in Latvia to chat to us and give us an insight into both yourself on and off the ice. And good luck for the rest of the tournament with Team GB.
Thank you so much. No worries. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you back?
We're back. There's a lot of buttons to push whenever we come back on the screen after a video. Marty makes it look seamless. For me, it's absolute blind panic.
He's a pro. He is a pro.
Speaking
of pros.
Speaking of a pro, first things first, massive thank you to Katie for coming on. I said it a couple of times through the interview there. this was about as last minute as you can make it. Sent a couple of emails to the Team GB media guys this afternoon, and massive thanks goes to Chris Ellis and to Craig as well, because the effort that they went to make this happen was absolutely epic. We've got franchises in the Elite League who don't want to have anything to do with us, but once again the Team GB guys have come through for us, so massive thank you to them, but especially to Katie. She spoke incredibly well, Aaron.
I was actually taking notes because I was like just completely drawn in with everything she said, and I am so happy that you asked her what her karaoke song was when they were talking about that was the preamble that was getting up and going. And of course, Shania Twain and Cheryl Cole being in there. I love the story about how it was a panto on ice story. Got her into ice skating, and then that went into figure skating. That wasn't for her or her brother, and then moving on into ice hockey. What a great background story!
I know it's a route that you wouldn't really expect.
No,
but absolutely. I mean, anything can come to anyone. You never know what's around the corner. And Katie's made a fantastic career of it. And getting the opportunity to go across to North America as well. A scout happening to be there, taking her across. She ends up in Ontario. Then she ends up in Connecticut. And then, unfortunately, COVID cuts that a little bit short for her. But she's back. She's back playing domestically in the WNIHL Elite as well. And a stalwart now at this point of the Team GB setup and all the successes that they're having.
Yeah.
So
I really liked her point about the PWHL as well, about getting the teams out there. She spoke so well of that. It's like, you know what, people, if people want to get behind the team, it's but getting behind the city and just getting out there. As we saw, it hasn't filtered them at all. I love how all of them were all. Go ahead.
It's an insight into that aspect of it that none of us here on the podcast can give, because we're guys. So Katie being able to come on and say that it's more important to just get the product out there, and like we said during the interview, and like we've said here on the podcast, there is clearly a market for the PWHL. They are selling out arenas, and yes, there's disparity in where certain teams are playing. Some of them are playing out of the NHL arenas, like Minnesota, who are selling out 30,000 something seater arenas, and you've got other ones who are playing in 4,000 seat arenas, which are smaller than some elite league rinks. So there's a bit of disparity there, but it's still great to see it, and it's great to get Katie's input. Last thing before we move on, we just want to say, once again, massive thank you to Katie for coming on, and also just to remind everyone that those last two games of the Division 1B IIHF World Championships, like we said, are going to be shown live on YouTube, so do get on and do watch them, do support the girls as they aim to stay up. I think at this point the chances of going for a gold medal are now gone, but there's still a potential for a medal, so there's everything to play for. Get behind the team, and a massive thank you to Team GB once again. Aaron, I want to move on, but I want to move on to something connected to what we were just talking about, but you've got your finger raised, so I'm going to give you the chance to come in here.
Unless you're about to talk about, are you about to talk about the Walter Cup?
I am about to talk about the Walter Cup.
Let's talk about the Walter Cup.
Let's talk about the Walter Cup. So, like we said during the interview, and there we go, seamless. I had this bit ready. I did have some of these slides ready to go. The PWHL today unveiled their championship trophy to be called the Walter Cup. The Walter Cup is designed, as we said during the interview with Katie, Tiffany & Co., who have gotten involved with this one here. You can see from the graphic that was released by the PWHL, you may not be able to read this on the screen. I know a lot of you are probably watching on your phones, and we're glad to have you here on your phones. And remember, do get involved with the conversation in the comments box. So the graphic explains kind of why the trophy is designed in the way that it is. The 6 W's around the cup commemorate the 6 original PWHL team franchises. The legs that hold up the cup itself are covered in skate marks, which resemble the marks made by skates as they go over the ice. The legs themselves are also on the outside are engraved with or have hockey sticks inlaid on them. There's hockey tape on the handle and on the blade of the sticks themselves. And there's rays of light that signify the dawn of a new era in women's hockey. And on the bottom, I love, this is my favourite detail of the entire trophy, is on the bottom of the trophy, which when it's sitting on something, you're never going to see it. And I think it's great because this is a message that it shouldn't have to be a message, so it shouldn't be one of the main points of the trophy, but it's still an important message to put out there. Is a PWHL puck shattering the glass ceiling on the bottom of the trophy. It's absolutely fantastic. For anyone who's super interested, I'm going to give you the other information that they've given on this. So the overall dimensions of the trophy, it's 13.5 inches wide and 24.5 inches high. So it's high and girthy. It's 35 pounds in weight. So what's that? About 3... Is that 3 stone? So must be close to the weight of my nearly 2-year-old at this point. And it's made of sterling silver. So, Aaron, it's an impressive trophy.
I think it's really nice looking. That's I wasn't sure that you were going to start talking about it, so that's why I was like, make sure we're talking about the World Cup. What it's all the amount of detail in the design. It's not a what do we always say, the Batman Forever Cup.
Yeah, it's not the... Was that the... I can never remember if that was the playoff trophy or the Challenge Cup trophy or one of the many... It must have been a Challenge Cup trophy, that one.
Yeah, but the amount
and we had the one that looked like a spring as well.
Yeah, the amount of thought into this, the skate marks, the hockey sticks, the glass shattering ceiling. Like, I absolutely love it. And that's obviously when you get a company like Tiffany and Co. Creating something as iconic as this, and as it will be, or as it is, getting their designers behind it.
Yep. And let's mention as well the reason it's called the Walter Cup. It's called the Walter Cup to recognise the commitment by both Mark and Kimbra Walter to make this dream come through for the PWHL players of today and tomorrow. They were instrumental in bringing about the PWHL, so it's exactly fitting that the trophy is named after them. In similar vein to the naming of the Stanley Cup. But it's important to note as well who nominated this as a name, and it's one of the most famous North American sportswomen of all time, Billie Jean King, who put this name forward. So this trophy, without having been awarded yet, already has a lot of sporting credential behind it. And it will be fantastic to see the first PWHL team to lift this trophy.
I love that Katie was talking about how it was all over their TikToks already. Like this was announced today, right?
Yes, it was. It was announced about 3 hours before I spoke to Katie today.
So the fact that it's all already so important to them, to hockey, that it's all over their TikToks. I absolutely loved that little nugget of information.
Yep, it was great. Aaron, I'm going to take the lovely trophy off the screen just now, and we're going to move on to talk about something else. And we said that we were going to talk a little bit about a couple of our NHL franchises, and let's start by talking about Marty's. Now, regularly, a team signing a player would not be a big deal for us here on Door 14 unless it happened to be a big name, a big trade or everything. But this one has a little bit of a link to Belfast. And this was the Toronto Maple Leafs signed forward Jacob Quillian. Jacob Quillian has signed a 2-year entry-level contract with an average annual value of $875,000 starting in the 24-25 season. The 22-year-old skated in 39 games for, and here's the connection, for the Quinnipiac Bobcats. The Quinnipiac Bobcats and Jacob themselves took part in the Bell-Pot Trophy, the Friendship 4, and Jacob is a Bell-Pot winner. So once again, we are seeing the links from the Bell-Pot and from Belfast, and those incredible links that the Friendship 4 has moving into the NHL. And I thought that was incredibly worthy of mention here on this week's podcast.
Definitely. That's an amazing that's an amazing link with Belfast, with the Friendship 4, but also entry level contract. Sorry, I just saw the dollar signs as well. Entry level contract being 875 mil, or sorry,
Yep.
thousand. So just under a mil.
1,000, yeah. If it was 875 million, that would be substantially over the salary cap that is in place for the NHL.
But 22 and 875,000 annual salary. Well done, lad.
Well done, mate. And you can put it all down to your time in Belfast.
It's all down to Belfast, exactly.
It's all down to Belfast. Aaron, I'm aware. I'm just realising that I've taken over period 2. It's your period.
You go ahead. You're on a roll, sir. You're getting this host duties right. So go for it. We're going to continue talking about stuff linked to the Leafs, I'm guessing, anyway.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong, actually. So this past week, it was unfortunately announced that the ECHL Board of Governors had voted to terminate the membership of the Newfoundland Growlers. So this news broke just a few days ago. Actually, in fact, it broke on Tuesday that the Growlers were effectively terminated. Now, this has come around based on the fact that the Growlers were up for sale. Their owners owned a couple of teams. One has been sold, but the Growlers could not find an appropriate buyer. So therefore, under the ECHL's rules and regulations, the Growlers have been eliminated and have ceased. And in fact, the business has also ceased trading entirely. Unfortunately for this, obviously, we've got Newfoundland, who once again have lost, and St. John's, Newfoundland, who have once again lost another hockey franchise and another sporting franchise. They can't really seem to hold on to them. It's the players who are more of an issue for this one, because under the rules, the ECHL contracted players that the Newfoundland roster have all become unrestricted free agents, but no ECHL member team is going to be allowed to sign any more than 2 players from this now defunct team. There are several players as well who are on AHL, NHL contracts at the time of the Growlers being disbanded. They're ineligible to play for any ECHL team for the remainder of this season. So effectively, their season has ended early. Now, this has also forced the cancellation of games. The Growlers still had a number of games still to go. 3 against the Trois-Rivières. I cannot remember what the Trois-Rivières actual franchise name is. That's terrible, because I actually spoke to Jordan Smotherman, who's a coach in the ECHL earlier in the season on 14 with 14, and they had games coming up against them. It'll come back to me, or someone in the comments will throw it up there. And they also had 3 more games against the Norfolk Admirals to come. Now, obviously, those games will be awarded to their opposition as effectively forfeits, which you would expect points then for those teams. But the points and the results will stand against the other teams that they played through the season. So, is that a little bit unfair on other teams, thinking specifically here about Jordan Smotherman and his outfit? They have had games, and other teams have had games against the Growlers, and undoubtedly a few of them will have lost games and lost out on points. You've got Trois-Rivières and you've got Norfolk, who are now going to walk away with maximum points from potentially from those games, which could have a big impact as they move towards playoffs. So, Aaron, a couple of points to talk about here. One, it's sad to see a franchise, and it's sad to see any hockey franchise, fold and leave. But the other part then is the players in these games and the impact that it has on the ECHL. Any thoughts on it?
So it's a Trois-Rivières Lions.
Lions, well done. Excellent Googling.
Excellent Googling. I even put in some acting there. It's like, is it the Lions? Like, I just remembered it. Yeah, no, as you say, buddy, it's always sad to see a team like that fold. It sounded like that they were close to getting both the teams sold, but it just fell apart at the last moment. which is unfortunate. And also, I appreciate what we're going to get on to talk about the players in a little moment. I love their logo.
Yeah,
it's such a nice, like, striking logo as well.
my favorite, or not my favorite, I don't have a favorite part of this story, let's be totally honest,
No.
but some of the social media around this has been quite entertaining, with some people going, oh, I absolutely love the branding of this team. Are there any jerseys in a cupboard that you're looking to offload now that this team is gone? So people are basically looking for a deal on these jerseys and any merch because the team's no longer functioning. I'll put my hat in that ring. I'll see this hat. I'll throw it in the ring. Give me a jersey. Get me a Newfoundland Growlers jersey if they're going cheap. You can almost guarantee it'll be the opposite now because the team's gone. I bet they're on eBay and selling for massive money.
Well, it was about, but that was kind of my lead on point to that. It's a bit sad that people are wanting to buy their jerseys now.
Well, it's not so much that the team was, I think, failing in respect of a lack of people going, or maybe it was the owners were looking to sell. It's the fact that the owners were looking to sell it and there was no buyer for the franchise for the team, and therefore the team has folded under the rules of the ECHL due to a league mandated deadline. So they had to have the sale completed and finalised prior to the 2nd of April, and because they went beyond that date, the ECHL governors removed their right to play in the league, and therefore the Newfoundland Growlers themselves, the entire business behind it, ceased trading. The other thing, let's put it in context as well, times are tough for everyone, and these are people who are now out of a job as well. These are players who are not playing the game that they love, and I assume that they're not going to be getting paid. There's also backroom staff, there's front room staff, there are a lot of people connected to these hockey teams, and this is not a small outfit either. This is an ECHL outfit. Looking at their facilities, they look to have a fantastic facility in St. John, and they're people who are out of a job. So,
and you were saying that the other teams are allowed to hire 2 players each?
So other ECHL franchises can sign 2 from the roster, but bearing in mind that there are some players who, due to their 2-way or 3-way contracts with the AHL and the NHL, they're not eligible to be signed by any other ECHL team. So unless an AHL franchise is looking to bring somebody up, those guys aren't going to play for the rest of the season, at least. The guys who are not on AHL and NHL contracts, they can be signed immediately into the ECHL, into the other teams in the ECHL. But at this point, with only half a dozen games left in the regular season, it's whether those coaches consider it's worth taking a risk on these guys. Yes, they've probably seen them play through the season, but do they really want to bring them in at this point, or have they got their systems in place?
Yeah.
And look, I didn't really understand the ECHL. I didn't understand the different pools that are on the coaches until after I spoke to Jordan Smotherman. He's operating in a system where his players can be taken away from him at a moment's notice through call-ups to the AHL or to the NHL. Similarly, guys can get sent down. Mm-hmm. He's got some control, but at the end of the day, if a higher league is looking for a player, then they go. And he has to manage that. So he has to deal with, those coaches have to deal with quite a lot of movement through the season. So let's not say that the year is over, the season is over for all these guys. It probably isn't, and I'd like to think by now that some of these guys are already moving on to other teams. But at the end of the day, they're not all going to continue playing, and guys will probably lose out on the possibility of continuing to play hockey because of a lack of team space. You're talking 20, 30 guys. Less are playing in the ECHL now. So unless there's gaps to fill elsewhere, sadly, that's the end of the road for those guys. Aaron, let's move on. We've got one more story to talk about in period 2, and I get to throw it back over to you.
You get to throw it over to me, and I get to talk about the Flyers. It's not often I talk about the Flyers, to be fair. So as we were on the last run up to playoffs, we made a new signing. Well, actually, technically not a new signing. We made there was a new debut of, why have I forgotten his name already?
Ivan Fedotov.
Thank you for the pronunciation. Usually wouldn't make a big deal about the Flyers either a new signing or someone making their debut. But on Monday night, we had Ivan Fedotov make their debut, who replaced Erison, who's looking a wee bit tired at the moment, as a goalie for the Flyers. As I say, we didn't usually make a big deal about this, but talking about big deals, this guy is tall. He is 6'7". I've seen some reports saying that he's 6'8". But most of them are saying he's 6'7".
Depends how cold it is outside.
Cold. Oh dear. Anyway, which means that he is tied for the tallest goalie in the NHL with Ben Bishop. So 6'7". If you ever get to see clips of this guy playing, he's huge. He takes up like the majority of the net. So I say he had a game on Monday night, and he didn't have an easy one. 17 shots on him, and he only let the one through. We did end up losing that game in overtime, but as a Flyers fan, seeing him play, being that tall and being that big, he's fast. Go ahead.
If it was an overtime loss, was it a 0-0 game?
No.
How could he only let one goal in?
Oh, maybe did he let two in?
If it was it was at 1-1 tied going into overtime.
Pass. I can't remember. But anyway,
this is the most pedantic part of the story because that's not the big story. Have you heard the other stuff about him and about why he didn't debut earlier for the Flyers?
Go for it.
Fedotov is a Russian native.
Yep. And
he was playing in the KHL, and then the Flyers had signed him. He was on, I don't think he wasn't on waivers, but essentially he was signed by the Flyers. He was playing in the KHL.
8 years ago.
Yeah. And he was supposed to come over to North America and start playing for the Flyers. However, Russia got hold of him. He got sent for national service and was sent out on an aircraft carrier for over a year and did his national service in the Russian Navy.
I hadn't heard that. Wow.
I'll be totally honest, I didn't know any of that until I saw on Spit and Chicklets. Those guys were talking about it, and his story is wild, let alone the height of the guy. Like, I've seen a photo of him standing like behind the net. The crossbar's at his arse.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. We all thought Besko was big in nets, but Fedotov is a different animal altogether.
I was watching a clip about him, and they were talking about how a lot of other goalies, when the players are coming up, they're having to try to peek over what's coming along, and he's just looking over people's heads with absolutely no problem seeing what's coming up. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how he plays on. But I say for his Monday's game, even though it was a loss, I was still happy with his performance. I think it was good. Looking forward to seeing him keep going.
Absolutely. Aaron, with that story in the bag, that takes us to the end of period 2. So unless you have anything else, we will move on to period 3.
Nothing here for me. That was a great period, John. With your interview. Good job.
All made by Katie, so thanks, Katie.
Good job, Kate.
Period 3 is our general knocky news.
I let you down. Knocky news.
There we go. No, I wasn't moving on until you said it. Knocky news is for everything and anything else that doesn't fit neatly into period 1, our local coverage, or period 2, our international coverage. And like we've said over the last couple of podcasts, it's very, very quickly becoming the Jersey period. And it will, but in a second, because we've got one other story which has been provided by our illustrious leader, Marty, always in our thoughts. He's found this really interesting story, Aaron. I don't know if you've had a chance to read this.
I haven't. When you actually said that there was another story, I was like, there is?
Yeah, so there's going to be some interesting content that's going to be put out by the NHL. In collaboration with Warner Brothers, the NHL will broadcast something called Multiversus. It's going to be during a game between the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. Using some interesting motion capture tech and using some of the tech that's already used to track players across the ice surface, Warner Brothers will be superimposing some of their best known characters onto replay action as it happens. So they're going to be putting the likes of Velma and Scooby-Doo and Batman on the ice in place of the players. Now, thankfully, they're not going to do this during the live play, because I think millions of hockey fans would immediately start losing their mind about that. But they will do it on the replays. And they've put out a quick video, which I haven't had the chance to upload, so I don't have it to show everyone. We'd probably get taken down off YouTube if I did it anyway. But it looks interesting, Aaron.
It looks like a PlayStation 3 board game, so it does. Bit of fun.
You're being kind, because I was going to say this looks like something off an N64.
Maybe not. Nintendo Wii. There we go. It's a Nintendo Wii game.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll give you it. It's the Wii is right. Very interesting for the potential that we could see Bugs Bunny score a slap shot from the point.
Against Batman and Wonder Woman, and yeah. It's funny because like the term I appreciate they're calling it multiverses, but like in films, TV shows, multiverses are huge at the moment, and it's interesting that their marketing team are just latching on to the whole multiverse thing and bringing it to hockey. So
do you want a rundown of the characters who will be involved?
Go for it.
So the characters that will be involved will feature Bugs Bunny, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Velma, Shaggy, Steven Universe, and Finn the Human. I'll be totally honest, I have no idea who the last two are.
So do you think is there bets going on who are they going to superimpose Superman on, and then how will the players feel that they're Bugs Bunny compared to Velma or someone like that?
I would love to see some proper breakdown of it, but that's not where it stops. So the Tasmanian Devil will be officiating the game, so he will be the referee, and on the virtual ice there will be digital avatars of NHL stars like Nathan McKinnon and Jack Eichel, who are on these two teams, on the Avs and on the Golden Knights. Now, they've said that the alternate version of the game will be played on a digital and dynamic ice rink that will feature various locations from the Smash Brothers games, Multiverses, so obviously that's the tie-in, is the Smash Brothers Multiverses, including the court from Space Jam and the Adventure Time Tree Fort.
I have no idea what the Adventure Time Tree Fort is, but the court from Space Jam...
I mean, that's the biggest other link to a real-world / animated WB sporting product that we've ever had. So do we think that Space Jam 3 is going to be ice hockey after this? Do we see, who would the star be? Who would the Michael Jordan be at this point? Is it going to be Nathan McKinnon?
But isn't space? You're just like spitballing that space because spitballing.
I'm just spitballing. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying this is the example.
Ovi
could be Ovi. Yeah, I could see that. Aaron, let's leave that there, because if we go down this rabbit hole, we're going to be here for another hour and a half.
Definitely, if you get the chance, if you're watching, go check out the actual video. It looks a bit. I think we've talked about this technology before.
I think we have, and I think it was about sort of overlays and animation over it, and I think this is just the next stage of it. So
the fact that they're
really interesting,
WD
and actually,
characters.
I am really glad that Marty did throw that in, because it is still interesting.
It's a bit of fun.
Speaking of fun, Aaron, we know why we're here. We know why we're in period 3. It's Knocky News. Let's have a look at some jerseys, shall we?
Let's bring them up.
So, this past week was April Fool's. And there were a couple of absolute crackers that came out of April Fool's. The first and potentially the best one came from our own Belfast Giants. Now, me personally, I've been one of the critics of the number of jerseys and the different things that the Giants have worn in place of a regular teal jersey this season. The Giants are fully aware of the conversations that are going on and released this fairly early on the 1st of April as their jersey to wrap up the season, as they put it. Obviously, it's a Frankenstein's monster of various special jerseys that they've worn across the season, from Pride, Christmas, Halloween, the Cowboy Night, St. Patrick's Day, the throwback jerseys, Oktoberfest, and Chinese New Year. Look at me remembering what each and every one of those was.
You didn't have that written down?
I'd absolutely, if I could take my camera down, it wouldn't instantly turn off. I would show you I didn't have it written down anywhere. Aaron, it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek. It's quite funny, but it did start up the conversation again. People started losing their minds about the jerseys that the Belfast Giants are putting out.
I actually took my hat off to them for a little bit of taking the mick out of them themselves. I loved that. It made me love the jerseys more. Wouldn't buy it. I appreciate that it's not coming out. It's not a real jersey, but I thought it was a very good, very, very humorous.
One of my favourite comments was related to what you just said, and it was someone saying, "Look, I know this is a joke, but you can guarantee that when enough people start asking about it, this will be available for retail."
Yes, it's like, oh, we'll make some money out of this. Let's get it launched. I thought it was actually quite funny.
I'm just noticing a detail I got wrong. The white sleeve, I thought, and I was looking at the picture that's in front of me, and not the high detailed one that's to the side of me here. That's not the throwback jersey. That's the Valentine's jersey on that left sleeve.
There's hearts on it.
There's hearts on it. Yeah. So
yes. Okay.
I apologize. I got it wrong. It's not the throwback. It's the Valentine's.
So people were giving
jersey.
off about all the jerseys again.
People were giving off about it, and I saw someone had gone through and looked at the number of times the Giants have worn teal at home this season, and I think it was in single digits. To be totally honest,
Ouch.
I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that, but it was low. It was quite a low count for the regular home jersey, because they wore the likes of the Challenge Cup jersey at home as well. They wore the season ticket jersey quite a few times as well. So yeah, it's obviously rankled people. It'll be interesting to see the approach that's taken going forward next season, and how probably not just the Giants but other teams as well, how they react to fans wanting that identity back. And once again, I want to be totally clear. I'm not having a go at the Giants or any team for raising money for good causes through selling jerseys and all the rest of it. It is absolutely a great thing to do, and I 100% back everything that they do with that. In fact, I think they've got a special jersey this weekend for one of the Sheffield ones as well. They've got an Alzheimer's jersey, which unfortunately I didn't have time to throw up into this slideshow. But they do have that that's going to be there this weekend against the Steelers. So they're all for great causes, but it probably needs a little bit of thought. But Aaron, let's move on to another.
Before you do that, Mark's just saved your bacon there. He's got you down for 11 times so far in with the regular jersey.
There you go. So not quite single digits, but not far. And I would assume that will go to at least 12 with the second or the one game of the weekend where the Giants won't be wearing the Alzheimer's Society fundraising jersey. Because let's be honest, the playoffs don't count because they're not our jerseys. They're the league's and their Rhino jerseys, and they're usually ugly as sin. But we'll get into that whenever we get the playoff jerseys released and we go through all the teams.
Mark made a point last podcast because we saw the playoff jerseys and.
We saw the playoff. We saw the EIHL playoff weekend white jersey. So yes. That was like a fan thing, but we haven't seen the team jerseys yet.
It was just was Mark's point saying that it could be a hint of what it could look like?
Could be, yep. Could be. I sincerely hope it is, because that would be more design than Rhino have ever put into a playoff final set of jerseys in a long time. Aaron, let's move on because there was another April Fool's, which got quite a bit of attention online. And it was this one. This was the Adirondack Thunder with their Mountain Dew collaboration on their visors. I'll be totally honest, this was Marty who caught this one. I thought this was fantastic. I thought this was great. This is a great piece of April foolery, but also a fantastic bit of partnership branding, because I assume they will have got a couple of quid for this.
I would say so. I love that. That's funny. You can just see it now with Mountain Dew coming out with their next. I appreciate it's not an AR headset; it's a hockey headset or a hockey helmet, but they bring it out in AR or VR kit at some point as well.
Yeah, I thought that was a big bucket of win. This one, I thought that was quite funny. And it was also funny, there was a video that went along with the post that the Thunder put out for this, and it was their equipment manager filling all of the bottles, which hilariously were Gatorade bottles with Mountain Dew. So that was funny. Moving on, we've got another jersey, and this one was actually submitted by Mark. And this was the Cleveland Monsters. They released an eclipse, a solar eclipse jersey. I loved this. And it glows in the dark.
Very cool.
I'm like a toddler. Anything that glows in the dark is instantly a 1,000 out of 10 product. Like that is fantastic. This is the only way that the Flyers could improve on some of their jerseys this season. The Five Flyers, I mean.
What are they
some
usually?
Of them were glow in the dark.
I'm guessing that it's all black and the logo's all black because of the eclipse, and it's only the light coming from the. I'm guessing that they have a regular color, right?
What do you mean a regular color?
Like, well, Giants.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Sorry. So I am at yeah. So they've gone for the sort of color drop. On the jersey, and then for the eclipse itself. What I love is the slightly off-centering of their logo on that sun to represent the moon going in front of the sun. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Small details like that is what makes a good jersey. And again, I'll say it again, it glows in the dark. So it's absolutely fantastic.
No, that's cool.
So
it's usually like they've got gold. What's quite nice is that the sun, they have black and gold and blue in the logo. So the sun is representing the gold of their logo, which is quite nice. And as you say, slightly off-centered. But
nice.
Glows in the dark. So when are you ordering it then?
I'll wait and see if certain known disreputable sites from certain countries might do a replica version of it.
You want to get
you can almost guarantee that the wrong parts of it will glow in the dark.
What material will they use for glow in the dark?
No idea. Probably something that will significantly shorten my lifespan. Let's move on. Now, back to the EIHL. And I did mention that there are still a couple of special jerseys to come. The Belfast Giants, let's say, unfortunately, didn't have time to throw it up on the slides here, the Alzheimer's Society one. But the Dundee Stars do this jersey every season, and this is their Dundee Bairns charity jersey. So it's a charity that helps to look after disadvantaged kids across Dundee and Tayside. And every year, for the last few years at least, the Stars have done a special jersey close to the end of the season to raise funds for the Bairns Club in Dundee. What I like about this one is last season's was very playful, very kid-orientated, and I absolutely love it. They associated the jersey really strongly with the charity and with what they were raising money for. This one, they've gone very, very heavy on the identity of Dundee. So you've got the ship Discovery, which was commissioned and launched in Dundee and now sits in the harbour in the Tay in Dundee. The building at the bottom of the front is the V&A Museum in Dundee, which is a fantastic building. It's actually just a fantastic place to go and visit as well, and I can vouch for it if you've got kids as well. It's great to go and visit. And then on the back, you've got the two bridges that lead between Dundee and Fife. On the top, you have the Tay Road Bridge, and on the bottom, the Tay Rail Bridge. So big push on identity. The reason I like that is because I think that'll appeal to more people in Dundee, and therefore potentially raise more money for what is a fantastic cause in Dundee. I like this for what it is. I'm not going to buy one because I think it's a bit clunky and janky, and I like what they've got on it, but I think it could be executed better. But I think it's a great thing. It's a great job of what they're doing there.
I'm glad that you explained it all, because when I first saw it, as you say, it's a bit full on when you first look at it. But
There's
if you took it for your team, wherever your team is based, and replaced all of that with stuff that was relevant to, in our case, Belfast, you might go, do you know what? That's a good design, or good design. Well, it's good for a good cause, and it's relevant to my city. I'm going to get it.
Absolutely. Moving on, the clan. While we've been live, and I'll apologise once again for not having that Alzheimer's Society jersey because it completely skipped my mind. But while we've been live, and while our interview was playing earlier on, I was able to throw this one up, and this was announced while we've been live broadcasting tonight. This is the game jerseys for the clan's Rock the Rink game, which is happening this weekend. So I'll be totally honest, I have absolutely no idea what the idea behind the cat logo is. I'm assuming it's maybe a band that are playing.
Rock the Rink.
As a neutral, and as someone who's not really into the clan and the messaging and all the rest of it, this confuses me as to what this is for. The Dundee jersey is for a particular purpose. I get that, and so is this jersey. It's for this event. I don't know. I just don't get it. It's another example of a clan jersey that I just don't get. I don't understand. They've had some shockers this season, and they're gonna end on a low, to be totally honest, with this one.
Sorry, I'm actually trying to read about it to see what the cat means, and I don't really see anything.
They're sponsored by someone called Cat House, which I think is a bar or a club or something, and I assume there's going to be music in there. So I'm assuming that Cat House are sponsoring the Rock the Rink, but it's just another jersey graphic design fail for me. It's awful. It's crap.
Yeah. Okay. As you say, Cat House. That's okay. Fine.
Yep.
I do quite like their logo in the background there. I think it's quite.
They're ghosted Mel Gibson.
They're ghosted Mel Gibson. They do like Mel in the back there. I think the cat is, as you say.
Do you not think it looks? And I get, when I look at it closer, I totally get that Mel Gibson is supposed to be playing a guitar in the background.
Oh, yes.
And that's just occurred to me. But does it not to you look like he has that cat in a headlock?
He's wrestling the cat.
But it looks like he's about to give it a noogie.
Yeah. That's a fair point. I like that. When I was searching for it, I similar to yourself, I had forgotten that was a guitar, and when I was doing my Google searching, I came across the 2019 jersey, and it's clear as day. It actually looks like Mel Gibson Rambo holding a guitar. But yeah, so here we've got Mel Gibson holding a guitar while wrestling a cat.
Yep, and I'm sure that's exactly the message that they were going for. I'm going to move on, Aaron. It's the last one. It pains me to put this up on the screen, if I am entirely honest, but here we go. The Sheffield Steelers last weekend made a very, very small change to their strips as they took to the ice in Sheffield, adding their 2024 champions symbol or logo to their jersey. I'm not going to say too much more about it, but yeah, absolutely. They're entitled to celebrate their championship, and that, I hope, is the last time I see that on my screen.
They deserve it. So
they do deserve it. I'm just a bitter Belfast fan. Aaron, we are officially at the end of the podcast because we have nothing else. I say we have nothing else. However, we were hoping that through tonight, through the podcast, that a certain host extraordinaire, Marty, was going to have a chance to drop in with us. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have been the case.
He's been a bit busy.
I am just checking my messages to make sure that he isn't able to drop in, because I did ask him during Katie's interview, but no, he's not available. So we're going to break a little bit of news here at the end of the podcast, and it's some absolutely fantastic news. And this is the news that Marty and his good wife Aoife, they have welcomed their first child. Their son Flynn was born last week. It's been a journey for them, definitely, especially when you look back a few months ago and me accidentally telling everyone
I
on
absolutely
the podcast that they
love
were
that.
expecting.
I still have that recorded. I watched that multiple times, right? And I'm gonna hook it out and I'm gonna pause it. It's that clip when from The Simpsons where Lisa breaks what do you mean the wee guy's heart, and you slow it down. There's that kind of mode to it. You announce it to the world where he hasn't, and you just see him going.
Yeah, so that was a total oversight from me, and thankfully
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to have a massive reach. But on behalf of myself and Aaron and Dave, who's not here, we are just so happy for Marty and Aoife on the fantastic arrival of their son Flynn. We all can't wait to meet him. We can't wait to take him to his first game. We cannot wait to make him as much of a hockey head as we hopefully will do with all the rest of our kids.
And he's a cute kid.
He's a very, very cute kid. So we send our best wishes to Marty and to Aoife and to Flynn, and we can't wait, Marty, to have you back on the podcast, and we especially can't wait to all meet Flynn when
100%.
we can.
100%.
Aaron, that's it. There's
That's
nothing
it.
else.
I
Let's
think
end
that
on that.
we ended on
incredible
the
high.
highest news. Yeah,
We end on
the
the
best
highest
news
news.
of it all.
Absolutely. So everyone, all that's left to do is to sign off. So you can catch all of our content, whether it's old episodes of the podcast, whether it's the odd blog that we've done, which I think the last one was about 4 years ago, so good luck to you reading through any of those. You can get those on our website, door14hockey.com. You can keep up to date with everything that we're doing on our social channels on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Actually, very, very occasionally we do put the odd thing on TikTok. You can find us at door14hockey on all of those. You can also keep up to date with all the most up-to-date podcasts on our YouTube channel. You'll find us at door14hockey on YouTube as well. Please remember to like and subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube as well so that you get alerted every time we go live or every time we drop some new content. I think that's it. Other than to say, you can also get all of our content on your podcast provider of choice and ask your smart speaker to play the most recent episode of Door 14 Hockey. With that, and after what has been a much longer podcast than I had initially planned, I just want to say once again a massive thanks to Team GB Ice Hockey and to Katie Marsden for coming on what was an absolutely fantastic 14 with 14. And yeah, absolutely brilliant insight to what was going on there, but massive thanks to Katie for coming on.
Great job, Katie. I'm gonna go watch that Dark Tourism now that she was talking about on Prime. That's now on my list to go watch.
It's do you know what? It's on my list as well after she spoke to me about it earlier. But that's for after this. So, I've been John.
I'm Aaron.
Have a great week.